Hey, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. A few episodes, I shared the super exciting news of the ancestor of a soldier who served in the 1st South Carolina Infantry. His image was previously unidentified. It was in a private collection. We published that image, and then one of the ancestors was able to spot the image and recognized the photograph from another image that the family had had. We made the connection. We used face recognition technology through Civil War photo sleuth to lock it all down. And lo and behold, we had put a name to a face. That name had become separated at some point after the war, and we were able to bring them back together. That's one of the most exciting moments that can happen to you when you're on the Civil War research trail. It doesn't happen as often as I like, but it does happen. And in fact, it happened again yesterday and then into this morning. And so I'm going to read you the email that is behind this latest identification of a Civil War soldier. I should say it's actually an ancestor who was discovering a photo of an identified soldier, an already identified soldier. So here's the email. My name is Brian Newman, and I'm the managing director of the University of Virginia's now Civil War Center. My great-great-grandfather was Frederick Holtzkampf, who served in Company B of the 33rd Illinois Infantry. I recently came across an article that you wrote, it's talking about Military Images Magazine, featuring an image of Holtzkampf. He goes on, the photograph is incredible. I've done lots of research on Frederick Holtzkampf's life, which I'm happy to share, but I didn't think any photos of him still existed. Would it be possible to get a higher resolution copy of his photograph just for my own personal use? And then he goes on a little bit more and signs it, Dr. Brian C. Newman, Managing Director and Digital Historian, the John L. Now III Center for Civil War History, University of Virginia. Super exciting to be able to identify or connect an identified image with the family. So here's the image. Here's the soldier. Here's Frederick Holtzkampf. So what I did is I then sent an email to the individual who owns this image and wrote the original story. That individual is historian Jim Hennessey. And Jim, way back in the spring of 2016, so 7 years ago now, he wrote a story that we published, and the name of the story is An Album of Ardent Patriots, Company B, 33rd Illinois Infantry. And I want to read you just the first paragraph of Jim's story to give you a sense of perspective around Frederick Holtzkampf and the 33rd. So here's Jim's opening paragraph. When the first company of volunteers left Bloomington, Illinois in April 1861, it included several students and a professor from a local Illinois normal college. Charles Hovey, the director of the fledgling school, was concerned that fervent enlistment would seriously diminish his student body. In a hastily called meeting with the boys, he persuaded them to finish the term and promised that afterward they could enlist as a group and that he, Hovey, would go with them. He also sanctioned the creation of a student military company called the Normal Rifles and engaged a drill master. However, the ardent patriotism of Illinois very quickly fulfilled the state's quota, and by the time that the Rifles held their final parade in early July of 1861, no new companies were being accepted by the state. So you have a little bit of tension there, and Jim goes on to explain how the Rifles eventually became a company, Company B of the 33rd Illinois Infantry, and then he shares all the photographs, or a selection of photographs, of men in the company, including the gentleman pictured here, the main subject of our story, Frederick Holtzkampf. So 7 years later, after that story is published, Brian Newman discovers the story, while he's probably searching online, and the rest, as they say, is history. We have now reunited this photograph of Frederick Holtzcamp with his descendant, Brian C. Newman. So another happy ending to a Civil War story that includes an identity of a photograph and a family, and in this case, a family member who had never seen the likeness of his ancestor in uniform. So there you have it. Today's Life on the Civil War Research Trail. We'll be back with a new episode. Until then, take care.